Hey guys, what's going on? This is Atharva here, and in this video we are going to look at React Query. So React Query is used for all things networking inside your React apps. You can use it to send network requests, to use mutations, and a lot of different things. And it can also handle cache under the hood. So in this video we are going to set up React Query and we are going to use it to make a network request and see how easy it is to use in your React application. So let's get started. Okay, so we have a blank Next.js application here, and first of all we need to install some packages. So let's go into our terminal and let's start writing commands. So first command we need is npm install, and we need the command at tanstack /react query. And basically this one should be enough, but we also need to install one package to mock a database which we have used in one of our previous videos. So npm install, and this should be a global package, JSON server. And once this is done, we can simply serve a JSON file as a database. Now we can just do npm run dev to run our development server. Now let's go back into our Visual Studio Code. Let's create a new folder here called db.json, and let's paste our contents here. So these are going to be the contents of our mock database, which are going to contain posts and with an ID and content. So the posts is going to be an array, and the JSON server package will just serve this as this as an endpoint. So let's save this and let's go back to our terminal, and let's open a new tab, and here we can just type a command JSON server watch db.json, and we are going to use it at port 5555. So let's press enter and wait for it. Now as you can see, it says the resources, and it serves the posts endpoint, and we can use it to do calls like fetch using get request and post request and a lot more. So now with that aside, let's go into a src folder and let's create a new utils folder. Before we even start using React Query, we need to first make some functions. So inside this, first of all, let's create a new file called types.d.ts. And now here we need to create a type for our post. So if you look at here, because we are using TypeScript, it's always beneficial to use types. So we are going to create a type for this post alone. So we are going to do export type post is equal to ID should be number and content should be string, and that should be enough for this file. Now let's go back to our utils folder and let's create a new file here called API functions.ts. And now even though we are using React Query, it's always good to have functions ready-made to get our posts and to add new post, and that way we are going to use and we are going to directly plug in into React Query. So you need these functions. So the first function is fetch posts, which we are going to use to fetch from that endpoint which we just created using JSON server, and then we are going to return some JSON, and we're just going to return posts, and this will have the type of post so that React Query knows what data is going to be returned back. And if there is any error, we are going to just throw a new error, and this will also be passed back through React Query. Now we need one more function which is going to add posts. So let me grab that. This is the add post function, and here you can you are going to make a network request to the same URL, but this is going to be a post request which is going to have a header of application JSON, because we are going to send JSON content, and then we are just going to JSON.stringify the content, and we are just going to pass it. Now we are passing content because the key here is content, because we are going to create a new record with a content, and ID is going to be just incremental. So yeah, this is we are going to do, and we are not going to wait for a response. We are just going to finish the request here, and if there's any error, we are just going to throw a new error. So this is how this file will work. Now let's jump into the React Query action. Now let's go back to our app.tsx file. Here we are going to set up our query client and query provider so that React Query works as expected. So let's set up the query client first. So here we are going to do const query client is equal to new query client, and it will have no config for now. And we can also export this, by the way, because we are going to need this later in the tutorial. So yeah, and now we can just cut this and we can have the query provider. So query client provider actually, and let's paste this here. And now we can just pass in our client as the query client. Perfect. And now there is no additional configuration required. Now we can just simply go ahead and start fetching data. Now let's go to index.tsx file, and we need to remove a lot of different things. So let's remove everything from main till, yeah, basically everything. And let's create a new div here, which is going to have a class name of p10, which implies padding of 10, just to give a little style. Yeah. Now we also go to the styles folder here and globals.css, and we remove all the tailwind initial styles here so that we are starting clean. Perfect. Now if we go back to our index.tsx file, now we can use the useQuery hook to fetch our posts. So we have the API functions file, and we can basically use this function within React query to fetch our posts. So let's do that. Now what we can do is we can go here, and now we can start with const. Let's give a proper indentation, and now we can do const post is equal to useQuery, and now we can have some options here. So basically the first option we need is query key, and it should be post here. I'm pretty sure Copilot is helping me out here, but I would like to type it out. So, and now the next thing we need is query function, and basically this is wrong. We need to have it as an array here. Perfect. Now in query function we need to pass in the fetch posts here. Let's import it. Perfect. Now you might be wondering why this posts query is being used. So this key basically allows this query to be identified later, and then you can basically, if you want to refresh this query, you can basically do it just by the key. So you can use that key to refresh all the queries that you want to refresh. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. And what I would recommend is destructuring this into few things. So first of all, we need the data itself, which we are going to call as posts. Then we are going to need the error, if there is any, and then we are going to need is loading, which is going to be is post loading. I know it should be our post loading, but whatever, at this point it doesn't really matter. And yeah, this is basically all we need for fetching the data. Now let's go ahead and start fetching the data here. So first of all, we are going to see if these are loading or not. So we are going to do is post loading, and we are going to just do loading, and then we are also going to check for errors. So if there is an error, we are just going to have this like this, but I think we are not going to just put it like this. We are just going to do error fetching posts. I think that's all. And then we can do actual mapping of the post. So we are going to do posts dot map, and now we are going to have the individual post, and now we can render a div. Let's close the div as well. I don't know why VS Code is acting weird nowadays. And we also going to have an class name here of my2, so that there's some spacing between these posts, and then we are going to have our content here. So we are going to do post dot content. Perfect. And I think this should work right away. So let me bring my browser instance and let's see how is it working. Okay, so as you can see, we have our output here. You can see this is my first post, second post, third post, and whatnot. And I don't know why I did this. I thought that this is going to be a to-do app, but I ended up making it a posts app instead. So now let's see how to add the functionality of adding posts into this list. So yeah, let's go back to our VS Code. Now let's create a new state to keep track of the text box we are about to create. So let's go here and let's have const we are going to have content use set content, sorry, is equal to use state, and this is going to be an empty string for now. Let's have some gap here, and now we can go ahead and add some text box here. So let's go, we are going to add it right here. So let me just copy it. We are not going to waste a lot of time here, so let me just get it, and we are going to paste it right here. So there is a lot of different things here. First of all, we have an input box which has the type of text, and we are using the state to keep the track of the text box. Then we have a button which should do handle add posts, and this is going to check if the button is disabled or not. But let's comment these for now because we don't need them right now, because we are going to add the functionality for that later. And also let's just remove that, let's just comment this out, and we are going to have add post instead. So let's go ahead and say add posts. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and create a new React query thing, and we are going to use the useMutation hook this time, because we are apparently adding something into the database using an HTTP request. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to get that mutation right now so that we don't use a lot of time just typing out. So this is the mutate async. Here we don't get any data because we are going to use the mutate async function, which you can use anywhere. We need to import the useMutation hook, and now we need the add post function, and on itself this should be enough to fetch to post the request to our HTTP server. But we are using the on success function, and we are using the query client, and we are invalidating the queries, and we are passing the query key as post. And that's because after each success of adding a post, we want this query, this use query, to refetch all data. So this is invalidating all the cache which is already stored, or basically if it's going to invalidate the data, and it's going to force this use query to refetch all data it has. If you don't want to do this method, there is also a refetch function here, so you can always use this one. But it's, I think, invalidate queries is also a good method if you want to use it. So yeah, now we can create a new function called handle add post. So let me get that function. So this function is, we are just going to add it into the button. I have just added it here so that the button is not messy. So we are just going to await the mutate async function. So if you don't want to use async await, you can always bring in the mutate function by itself, but we are going to use async await, so that's why we are not going to use it. We are going to use mutate async, and we are just going to pass in the content. So if you don't pass in anything, there should be an error, because TypeScript is playing its thing right now. So we need to pass in our content, because React query is very intelligent to know that this function is accepting a content which is string. So we need to pass our content there. So this is how it works. Now we need to add this to the button. So let's disable this for now, and let's also remove the comments here, and let's remove add post. So what we are doing in the button is we are adding the on click event to add the post, and we are also using the disabled property here, so that whenever there is a post being added, whenever the request is pending, we can block this button so that it cannot be pressed anytime anymore. And we can also have, whenever the post is being added, we can have the text being as adding, and otherwise it's going to be add post. So I think this should work. I'm pretty sure it should work. So let's go back into our browser, and now we should have our text box, write about your day, and we should have the button. So now let's talk about I woke up at 12 p.m. which is correct. I usually wake up at 12 p.m. So let's add post, and yeah, it is right here. So what happened behind the hood is the React query made a post request to a JSON server, and it invalidated the query and it made it refetch this entire query, and the post was added here. So I want to show you the loading state also. So let's go back to our VS Code and let's add a virtual lag to the request, I guess. So let's go to the API functions file, and now let's do await new promise, which is going to have a function as a callback, and we are going to resolve this. So set timeout, and we are going to resolve this promise after 3 seconds. Let's also do this for our fetching, so that there is some real world API requesting, because for now we are just doing this off localhost, so it's pretty fast. So let's go back here and let's refresh this page. So you should see loading here, and within 3 seconds we should have all our posts. Now we can just type about I ate pizza, which is also true, and let's add post. It says adding, and after 3 seconds we should have it. Not actually after 3 seconds. Now that it added its post, it will take 3 seconds for it to fetch again. And yeah, this is how it works. But now I want to tell you something more interesting. So if we reload this page, you will see that there's loading for approximately 3 seconds. And the reason why I added the loading is because I wanted to show you the concept of fetching using server-side rendering. So server-side rendering is one of the coolest feature of Next.js, which is not really that cool anymore because it's become a normal now. But you can use React query to fetch these in server side. So now we can just do, let's go back to index.tsx file. So I was just wondering why that file was so weird. So let's create a new function here, export async function, get server side props. We don't need any context here, so we are just going to leave it empty. Now we are going to do const posts is equal to await fetch posts, and now we can simply do return props, and we're just going to pass in posts. So we are just getting this from our server side without using any React query, and we're just passing the posts. And now we can fill this into React query to know that, hey, this is the initial data you can use. So now we need to first create a type. So let's create, do we really need a type? Okay, let's just do it. So type props is equal to, and we are going to have posts. It cached it properly. Now we also need to import this one, so let's do that. And now let's have our props here, and now okay, we need to give it a type. And now let's go to a fetching thing, and now let's add our initial data. So let's do initial data should be props.posts. So now what will happen is when the page tries to load, it will try to load the post server side, and it will send it back to our page. And what React query will do, take this post and have it as an initial data, so that there is absolutely no lag for your users or no loading states for your user in the first loading iteration. So let's go back to a browser, let's reload this page, and now you can see the loading indicator right here. It will go for 3 seconds, and then you will have one here without loading screen. So let's reload again, and you should not see a loading screen here. Now what I want to do is, let's go back here and let's go back to API functions, and let's remove the delay here. Let's go back to a browser, and now I want to reload the page. So let's reload the page, and you should not see any loading screen again. So this is a very cool feature you can implement in your apps, and this is going to help you a lot. So yeah, that's it for this video. If you found any value in this video, make sure you click the like button, leave some comment, and hit subscribe button on this channel. It really helps my channel. It boosts it in the algorithm and all of those different stuff which happens inside YouTube, and it will really help for my small channel to grow and provide as much value to people as possible. So yeah, make sure you click the subscribe button, And what do you think about React Query? Would you ever use it? What is your opinion about it? Make sure you leave that in the comments as well. If you want to connect with me, I have my socials in the description, so you can just go ahead and message me, and I'll be more than happy to reply. So yeah, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.